Alrighty, so we're taking notes on multiplying and dividing fractions. That's the second page in our notebook. The date is 11/12/19, so go ahead and put that down there. Then once you got that, you're going to flip to page 2. And it's multiplying and dividing fractions. So again, last week we did adding and subtracting fractions. Now we're doing multiplying and dividing fractions. You're going to have this foldable that's going to be glued in at the end, so you can just put your notebook to the side and glue it in at the end. So let's get started. I'm going to start with multiplying fractions. So step 1, when you're multiplying fractions, you want to multiply your numerator by your other numerator. So it's numerator by numerator. And the lucky thing about this, you do not need common denominators to multiply. You only need common denominators when you're adding and subtracting. So that was last week. This week, we are not changing our denominators by any means unless we're simplifying. So step 2 is going to be multiply your denominator by your other denominator. And after you multiply, you want to see if you can simplify. Now, of course, simplify just means to reduce, make smaller, divide, because that's how we reduce. We use division. All right, so let's open this up and practice. So there's many ways that multiplication looks like. Multiplication can look like this X. Multiplication can look like parentheses. Sometimes you even see a dot. So again, don't let these different forms of multiplication fool you. You are still multiplying. So for the first one, like I said before, your step 1 is to multiply your numerators by your numerators. So we're just going straight across. 1 times 3, which is 3. Then we want to multiply our denominators. 2 times 4, which is 8. And we want to see if we can simplify this any. And because it's 3 and 8, and no number goes to both 3 and 8 equally, it's just 3/8. Moving down here, when you have a whole number, don't let whole numbers trick you or fool you. You're just going to turn it into a fraction because all whole numbers go over 1. All whole numbers are over the number 1. Because 6 divided by 1 is 6, 2 divided by 1 is 2, 10 divided by 1 is 10. So again, all whole numbers can go over 1, and then you just multiply going straight across. So 6 times 2 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. So we can simplify 12 over 3. It's the same thing as 12 divided by 3. And we know that's just going to be 4. So this equals 4. And that's the whole number. Okay? And then up here, this is the same exact thing. It's just asking us to multiply. Parentheses say, hey, multiply. And we can multiply straight across. But before I do that, I do notice that I can simplify some of this. And this is called cross simplifying. So this is going to make our problem a little bit easier when we cross simplify. So when we cross simplify, we're looking to see here, is there any number that goes into 5 and 10? And then we're looking at here, is there any number that goes into 9 and 3? So let's take a look at this. So I know 5 goes into itself 1 time, and 5 goes into 10 2 times. So I simplify that and made it easier for me. So now I can look this way. Could anything be simplified? 3 goes into itself 1 time, and 3 goes into 9 3 times. So now I've made this problem smaller by cross simplifying. We can't simplify going adjacent, but only across diagonally. And so now I have a new problem, and I want to write that new problem. That new problem is going to be 1 over 3 times 1 over 2. So much easier. So now I'm going to do 1 times 1, which is 1. And I'm going to do 3 times 2, which is 6. So again, if you were not to simplify this, you would have gotten the same answer. So 5 times 3 is 15. 9 times 10 is 90. And we would have just divided this by 15. And let's say you didn't know to divide by 15. Let's say you want to start with 5. We know 13 divided by 5 is 3. And 90 divided by 5 is 18. And so when we're simplifying this, we can do it again. We know that 3 can go into both of these numbers, and 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. So either way works. Remember, the cross simplifying just makes it a little bit simpler, so you don't have to do all the simplifying later. But if you're more comfortable just multiplying and simplifying last, that's okay as well. So now we're coming down to this problem where we have mixed numbers. So these are proper fractions. We want to multiply. So we have to first change them back into improper fractions. And to do that, we want to multiply these two numbers and then add the numerator. Okay? So we're going to multiply these two numbers, add the numerator, multiply these two numbers, add the numerator. So to do that, we're doing 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 plus 1, which is 5. So that's going to be now 5 over 2. The denominator stays the same. Do not change your denominator. And then we're going to be multiplying by 3 times 5, which is 15, plus 1, which is 16. And again, this is over 5. It stays the same. Now, I personally would prefer to cross simplify because these are some big numbers. So let's cross simplify. 5 goes into itself 1 time. 5 goes into itself 1 time. 2 goes into itself 1 time. 2 goes into 16 8 times. And notice my colors show me how I'm simplifying here. It is showing me that I'm simplifying going diagonal. So now I have a new problem, and that's going to be 1 over 1 times 8 over 1. And now just multiply straight across. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. 8 divided by 1 is 8. There you go. So now we're going to go ahead and do dividing fractions. And the funny thing about, or the cool thing about dividing fractions is it's a lot like multiplying fractions with a couple of changes that you'll have to make. So with dividing fractions, you're going to keep your first fraction the same. So we're not changing it. Just leave it alone. Keep it the same. We're going to change your division sign to multiplication. So we're going from division to times. And then step 3, we're going to flip. Like flipping an egg. You're going to flip your second fraction upside down. So the numerator becomes the denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator. So you're just flipping it upside down. So when I say flip, it's also called a reciprocal. But if I have the number 1/2, when I flip it, it becomes 2 over 1. So again, just flipping it. If I have 4/8, flipping it would just make it 8 over 4. So again, flipping it upside down. And we only do that to the second fraction. So that is super important to know. This is only your second fraction you're doing this to. Nothing else, okay? Your second fraction. Your first fraction you leave alone. Your second fraction, you flip it. Okay? So, open up practice. So I put this reminder here. This is KFC, or KCF. And again, this is your notebook, so you can make it how you like. But it's important that we just remember this acronym as we're working. So K is telling us to keep. The C is telling us to change. Remember, we're changing that division to multiplication. And then the last one is flip. Flipping that second fraction upside down. Or using the reciprocal as the correct math term would be. Okay? So keep, change, flip. So let's practice. So, step 1, keeping this the same. Changing division to multiplication, and then flipping the second fraction. So 4/5 becomes 5/4. And now you just multiply straight across. So 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 4 is 8. And then you simplify if you can. And 5/8 can't be simplified. There's no number that goes into both 5 and 8, so we just leave it be. Let's try the next problem. 3/10. We're going to keep it the same. Change our division to multiplication. And then we're going to flip the second fraction upside down. And I can cross simplify here, or I don't have to. So if I didn't cross simplify, it'd just be 3 times 10, which is 30, and 10 times 9, which is 90. And we know the number 10 can go into both of these. Actually, the number 30 can go into these. It's bigger. So it's going to be 1/3 is our answer. Okay? If we were to cross simplify, it would have just been canceling out these 10s and these 3s and 9s, and it would just made it a little bit easier. But we didn't have to do that. We could just do it the simple way. Okay, so again, change division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip. So the 1 goes on the bottom now, the 2 goes on the top. We're just going to multiply straight across. So 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 1 is 5. And this is improper, so we want to turn it back into a proper fraction. So we want to know how many times 5 goes into 8. So 5 goes into 8 once. And then I want to do 8 minus 5 to see what I have left. So when I do 8 minus 5, I have 3 left. And I leave my denominator the same. Okay? And then last one, when we have a whole number, we got to change it to a fraction, and we know all whole numbers are over 1. So we're going to leave this the same. It's going to be 5/1. We're going to change division to multiplication, and we're going to flip this 2/3. So this just becomes 3/2. And now we're multiplying straight across. So 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 2 is 2. And now again, this is an improper fraction that we want to turn into a mixed number or a proper fraction. So we need to see how many times does 2 go into 15. So you can just count your fingers. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. 14 will be a little too much, so let's go back to 12. So 6 times. And so 15 minus 12, because that is how many times it goes into there. So 15 minus 12 would give us 3. I'm sorry, it was 14 because this is 15. So, excuse me, I'm going to change this. A little math mistake. So it's 7 because it is 14. And there's going to be 1 left over 2. There we go. So please correct that. Let me say it again just so we're making sure we're clear. 2 goes into 15 7 times because 14 is less than 15. So we have 15 and then we're taking away 14 2s from that. 14 from that. So 7 2s from that. And so that would be 1/2. And that will be your final answer. Okay? So that is it. The main thing I want you to remember, keep, change, flip. Got to remember that when we're multiplying and dividing fractions. Alright, so now you're just going to make sure you get some glue from me and glue it into your notebook underneath that page, and then you'll be done.